Alright, think about it. Imagine a world where the United States is an oil importer, struggling to meet its own energy needs. Well, that was reality just 20 years ago. But now, America is now one of the world's top oil producers. So what happened? Well, that's the story of the shale revolution, a tale of technological breakthroughs, economic shifts, and a race to drill for black gold like never before. Back in the early 2000s, US oil production was on a steady decline. Imported oil from countries such as Saudi Arabia, Venezuela, and Nigeria filled this gap. But oil prices kept creeping up. The US seemed locked in the cycle of dependence, which made it super vulnerable to price shocks and political instability abroad. But there was a glimmer of hope. Below the US soil, geologists knew there were massive reserves of oil and gas trapped in shale rock. Now, what was the problem? These hydrocarbons were locked tight, like soda in a rock-hard can. No one could get them out. Until one day, someone figured out how. Enter hydraulic fracturing and horizontal drilling, two technologies that will turn the oil industry on its head. Hydraulic fracturing, or fracking, involves pumping a higher pressure mixture of water, sand, and chemicals deep into the earth to crack open the shale rock and release oil and gas. Then comes the genius of horizontal drilling. Once a vertical well reaches the shale layer, it turns sideways, allowing drillers to extract oil across miles of rock. Combine these methods, and suddenly, the previously inaccessible oil and gas were within reach. Now, the first big shale play began in places like Texas and North Dakota in the mid-2000s. Drillers rushed to regions like the Permian Basin and the Bakken formations. Small towns such as Midland and Odessa turned into boom towns, with workers flooding in to cash in on the shale rush. Local economies exploded as thousands of jobs were created almost overnight. But this wasn't just about jobs and drilling rigs. The rise in production was astonishing. By 2014, US oil production had doubled, turning America from an importer into a potential exporter. And a US production surge, global oil prices were soon to feel the impact. And now you see OPEC, the powerful oil cartel, got pissed. As America's production soared, global oil prices took a hit, even sparking a price war. OPEC members like Saudi Arabia tried to drive prices low to make shale unprofitable. You see, shale requires a lot of debt. So American producers needed to cut back if oil prices fell. But the shale producers had something up their sleeve. They got way more efficient. Innovations in drilling, reductions in costs, and better technology helped them break even at lower and lower prices. They adapted and survived. And it wasn't all rosy. The shale boom brought environmental concerns, such as the massive amounts of water and the raised fears about water contamination. Then there were the earthquakes in regions that had never seen them before. I think that the number of earthquakes and small tremors quadrupled between 2017 and 2021 in regions such as West Texas, which is absolutely crazy to think about. And environmental activists and some communities began to push back. Fracking regulations began popping up, with some states banning the practice entirely. The environmental toll of fracking became a national conversation, putting pressures on companies to adopt safer and more responsible practices. And as much as shale transformed the US energy scene, it's a risky business. Shale extraction is more expensive than traditional oil drilling, as we said, with the level of debt required. So that means that when oil prices drop, shale companies massively struggle. We saw this in 2014 when prices plunged forcing many shale producers into bankruptcy. And, again in 2020, when the COVID pandemic crushed demand and shale suffered another massive hit. But the industry rebounded, leaner and more efficient, with lessons learned from each downturn. And I think that the oil and gas industry actually became one of the most efficient industries since 2020, even better than tech. And despite its challenges, the shale revolution achieved something remarkable: US energy independence. For the first time in decades, the US produced enough oil to meet its own needs with excess to export. This shift gave America new leverage in global energy politics, making it less reliant on Middle Eastern oil and more resilient to international supply disruptions. But with the world moving toward renewable energy, what does the future hold for shale? Well, as the planet warms and clean energy advances, the US faces tough questions. Shale oil is here to stay for now, but as the global demand for cleaner energy grows, the shale industry will need to adapt or risk being left behind. Some shale companies, such as Diamondback and Matador Resources, are investing in carbon capture, cleaner operations, and even renewable energy. The revolution transformed America once, but can it evolve to meet the needs of tomorrow's energy landscape? So, in just 20 years, the US went from an oil importer to a world-leading producer. The revolution reshaped economies, challenged OPEC, and put America in the driver's seat of global energy. But as we look to the future, the legacy of shale will depend on how it adapts to a rapidly changing energy world. Can this industry keep America on top, or will the world's next energy revolution leave it behind? Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let us know what energy topics you want to see next. Thank you very much.